we haven't done a show in over a week, and there's been a little bit going on around the league. The one thing that went a little bit viral were JT Miller's antics with Colin D'Elia behind the net when he wanted D'Elia to go to the bench. So I'll ask you guys, Miller's antics with D'Elia were blank. Jason?
Overblown.
Interesting.
Bush League.
So you guys aren't on the same page with this either.
I don't think there's any need to show up a guy like that. First off, any teammate at any point ever. Second, you're not the coach. Mike McKenna wrote a great column on dailyfaceoff.com about this, explaining the intricacies of the goalie pull, that most coaches now do not make the decision to pull until the play has already moved up the ice, because there's no reason to. There's no benefit to pull the goalie while you're in your own end. And I also just think it speaks to the overall dickishness. Is that a phrase of JT Miller that it's driven people crazy there in that market, that he's kind of developed a reputation on that team of being a prick. And this was an example of that for everyone to see in front of everyone else. And not to mention Colin D'Elia, third goalie that's just played his bag off for your team. That's a lot of dick and bag references in one.
The reason I say overblown, did it look bad? 100%. Should he not have done it? Yes. I don't think it meant oh my goodness, the character assassination and people were, this is just brutal. I'm like, let's calm down. Yeah, it wasn't great. It also, Frank, if you've said it, if he has a reputation, that's who he is. So it shouldn't be a surprise.
Yeah, I think it just, why it sticks with everyone in that fan base is because, at least how I read it, is because they've put themselves in a really bad position now to re-sign and keep Bo Horvat after a magical year. Someone that really wanted to be there, that now they've sort of pushed that over the edge to the point where it seems like a trade is a foregone conclusion.
Yeah. Because so they're frustrated about other things, not the actual event. Because I'll say this, if Vancouver was in second place, wouldn't be a topic.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's Vancouver.
Not nearly as much.
Everything is a topic in Vancouver. Come on.
Frank, you were talking about the lack of a playoff race in the East. Maybe won't even really be one in the Central and the West, but the Pacific could maybe be the best divisional playoff race we get. Right now, the standings read Vegas, then LA, then Calgary, Seattle, Edmonton in fifth. I will ask you guys, the playoff teams in the Pacific this year will be blank, blank, and blank. Frank?
All five of the teams you just mentioned.
You think all five are getting in?
Well, I take that back, because Colorado is definitely going to get in. So that means it's going to be 4.
So who misses?
I had said for a while that I thought Seattle was a lock just based on math, and that may still be the case because they've played 3 fewer games and 5 fewer games than LA, 4 fewer games than the Golden Knights. But they've really sputtered of late, as you know, and their goaltending is not anywhere near playoff quality. So if I had to bet right now, you put a gun to my head, I would say Seattle, but the math is still looking extraordinarily in their favor.
Yeah, they have a much harder schedule than they had the first half. Not the amount of games they play, but who they play. I will say that Seattle has a really good run. They have a competitive season, but they missed the playoffs.
Interesting. Yeah, the schedule is something, because you're right, Jay. A few more games, but definitely some tougher opponents mixed in there as well.
You know who my next team out would be?
Edmonton?
Calgary.
Really?
Yes. I think Edmonton's going to take off once they get Kane back. I'm curious to see what they do at the deadline. I do think Calgary is going to be a player at the deadline. Something's off with that team. It just is. And I've yet to see any sort of, even in the games they're winning, I'm not wowed.
Yeah. If Jack Campbell, who wasn't bad his last 2 starts, he's been okay. If he can just be okay and not he's an .876 save percentage. He started 16 to 38 games, guys. Just get to 895 and they would be much better. So that's why I think Edmonton should be fine. Stuart Skinner's been very good. He's clearly the starter now. You know, they can pick and choose which games Campbell plays. This month they don't have a really hectic schedule. They're not a tough travel really. They have a 4-game road trip, but it's LA and Anaheim, so you're not really traveling there. And then it's quick jaunt to Vegas and San Jose. Skinner can easily play 8 of their next 10 games this month, and it doesn't even look bad. Probably could even play 11 out of 14.
Yeah. The Campbell thing is funny. I did the math earlier in the season on how many consecutive pucks he would have to stop if he wanted to get back to a 900 save percentage. I haven't done it in a while, but I think it's still like he needs back-to-back 35 save shutouts or something if he even wants to get close to a 900 save percentage.
That's not even the interesting math, is how many fewer goals would the Oilers have given up had he just played to 900. That's what's interesting.
Exactly. That's what I mean. Like it's an area, though. Here's the thing, talking to a lot of goalie coaches, guys, I don't know if Jack Campbell's problems are all going to be fixed this year. Right? We saw him. Kevin Woodley talked about it months ago that he needed to change his equipment, right? Just to kind of get up to speed with it. So that's one element. But a lot of the technical stuff, you might need months of an off season, and they say it's definitely fixable, but it's hard to do it during the year. So,
12 fewer goals. That's what the math would be.
They're just trying to get him, guys, to the point where you say if he could be 900 or at this point 895. That would be a significant upgrade, even 895.
Isn't that sad that that's what you're talking about, though? Well,
it hasn't been a great year.
With a 5 times 5 deal.
Yeah.
Not ideal. From the playoff picture in the West to about as far away as you can get from the playoff picture in the West, the Chicago Blackhawks have 20 points in 36 games. You don't need me to tell you that's brutal, but through an 82-game schedule, the least amount of points the team has put up in the salary cap era would be the Colorado Avalanche in 2016-17 when they had 48. So your question, the Hawks, who are on pace for 45, will finish the year with blank. Jason?
So they have they got 20 points in 36 games. So they're on pace for right around that 48 mark, right?
Yeah, they're on pace for 48. Yeah.
So I'm going to say they finish with, because they're going to trade off some guys.
They might trade off a quarter of their roster.
I'm going to say
it might be more than that.
Yeah. But teams always find ways to win some games they shouldn't down the stretch. I'm going to say they finish with 44 points.
44. Ooh, Frank?
Poor Luke Richardson. His coaching record is just, he's never going to recover from it. Doesn't matter how good he is. Well, then again, Jared Bednar has done all right for himself. But that's a whole... It's amazing that Bednar is still the guy in charge, by the way.
Yeah.
48-point season, bounces back next year, almost doubling it, 95. I'm going to say the Hawks end up with 42.
All right. That would be...
But the big question is, will they win the Connor Bedard sweepstakes?